Hello, fourth grade. Today we are going to work on sequence on workbook page 206. Remember that sequence is the order in which events take place. So first we're going to read the passage here. You follow along as I read out loud. On the first day aboard the ship, our dog Sammy caused a lot of trouble. After Mother said that Sammy could join us, we were excited. By the end of the day, however, he was not our favorite friend anymore. First, Sammy jumped on the lap of Captain Howard, who was very stern and formal. The captain was not pleased and scowled at us. Later, Sammy knocked over the bucket of soapy water that the cabin boy was using to mop the deck. Water splashed everywhere. We tried to call Sammy over to us, but he wouldn't listen. In fact, he was in such a frenzy that he slipped on the soapy water and slid right down the stairs below deck. At first we heard nothing. Then Sammy howled so loudly that we had to cover our ears. Apparently Sammy had sprained his leg. I guess he had to learn his lesson the hard way. So number 1 asks, what is the last event in the story? It doesn't necessarily mean the last sentence here, where it says that he sprained his leg, because that's not the last thing that happened. The last thing that happened is that Sammy howled so loudly that we had to cover our ears. He had already sprained his leg before he was howling. So number 1, the last event is that Sammy howled very loudly. Number 2, when were the children excited? Well, if I look over here, it says, after Mother said that Sammy could join us, we were so excited. So on the line, you need to write, after Mother said that Sammy could join us. That's when the children were excited, after Mother said that Sammy could join them on the boat. Number 3, what is the second thing that Sammy did to make everyone upset? Well, if we look up here, we see that first he jumped in the lap of Captain Howard. Then the next thing that he did would be he knocked over the bucket of soapy water. That would be number 3. He knocked over the bucket of soapy water. Number 4, what clue words in the passage help you figure out the order of events? Well, let's look. We have after, and we have first, and we have later. All of those words help us to figure out the order or the sequence in which things happened. And we also have then. So we have after, first, later, and then. And then number 5 asks you to write on a separate sheet of paper the main events in the story on a timeline. And it really doesn't fit here very well unless you can write very small. So I'll show you how the timeline should look. So we're going to draw a line. And the first event is that Sammy jumped in Captain Howard's lap. So I'll write that. Sammy jumped in Captain Howard's lap. Make sure you're writing as I'm writing. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second thing is that Sammy knocked over a bucket of soapy water. I'm going to write that above the line so that it's not squished. So Sammy knocked over a bucket of soapy water. Okay. Then the next thing is that the children called Sammy. So children called Sammy. Okay. And then after that, Sammy slipped and slid down the stairs and sprained his leg. So that's a lot to write, so I'm going to start way at the top. So Sammy slipped and slid down the stairs. Stairs and sprained his leg. And then the last thing that happened, which is what we put on number 1 of the questions, is that Sammy howled. So that's the last thing that happened. Sammy howled. So here is the order of events in the story. Sammy jumped in Captain Howard's lap. Sammy knocked over a bucket of soapy water. The children called Sammy. Sammy slipped and slid down the stairs and sprained his leg. And then Sammy howled.